What's up, Taiwan? How's it going? I'm Erika Liu with 10 minutes of news from here in Taiwan and around the world. A new tactic used by China in its military exercises around Taiwan this month could become the new normal. That's according to security experts. Drones were deployed over Taiwan's offshore islands in the drills ordered by Beijing to protest U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taipei. Analysts say China is trying to degrade Taiwan's military. Ryan Hill-Kilpatrick explains.
In the skies over Taiwan, a new threat appears on the horizon. Drones, also known as unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs, were deployed by China in unprecedented drills. It was Beijing's response to U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's trip to Taipei. Analysts say it was a new theater for the Chinese People's Liberation Army drones, but a well-worn tactic.
The PLA does have a precedent of using UAVs as a means of maintaining presence and persistent surveillance of disputed waters, including in the East China Sea and in the vicinity of the Senkaku Diaoyu Islands. But the use of UAVs with these types of pressure tactics or coercive exercises is a bit more of a new phenomenon.
Like China's incursions into Taiwan's air defense zone, the use of these drones is seen as having a psychological effect, chipping away at morale and faith in the armed forces. But they could serve another purpose.
We could imagine a couple potential benefits from that kind of tactic, one of which would be to evaluate the readiness of the garrisons on the offshore islands in question and how quickly their defense commands are able to detect the UAVs and respond. If these kinds of activities were to become routine, that could be a further means by which to desensitize these defense commands to having UAVs operating in vicinity.
The drones that harried Taiwan's forces on the offshore islands this month may have been a first, but it is unlikely they will be the last.
I think we can expect to see the continuation and, if anything, escalation of these types of activities, because UAVs are a very useful instrument for these kinds of pressure campaigns or punitive measures. The advantage from Beijing's perspective is that they can increase the pressures, can try to provoke a response psychologically, but with lesser likelihood of an accident that could result in a fatality and with less costs in terms of sort of the wear and tear on manned aircraft and assets.
As China continues advancing in drone technology, Taiwan faces a serious challenge. In this new realm, the rules of engagement are opaque. To meet it, Taiwan is developing its own capacity, both to engage enemy drones and to produce its own UAVs, defending the country's skies in the face of new threats. Ryan Hill-Kilpatrick for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's police have arrested several suspects in connection with human trafficking operations over the past few days. But why are a growing number of Taiwanese people falling prey to scams that promised high-paying jobs in Southeast Asia? To find out, TaiwanPlus reporter Jean Van Trieste spoke with Executive Director of Amnesty International Taiwan, Zhou Yiling.
Usually when we hear about human trafficking, we hear stories of people from developing countries being brought into countries that are maybe better off. In the case of Taiwanese people being trafficked overseas, what we're tending to see is them leaving Taiwan, a very developed country, and heading towards some more poorer countries. It seems to be the reverse of what we normally see. Why do you think this is?
So the difference between the highest and the lowest household income is now is 6.13 times, which is the highest record in 8 years. So the gap between the highest and the lowest income is huge. And also, when we saw the trafficking cases, the scams also usually take advantage of the fragility of humanity. So is it not only relevant to the education level? Everyone might dissatisfied with life, or so that's the cause or the desire for them to persuade a better life in other countries. Scam is also carried out by using this kind of weakness of human beings. And also we saw that many scams rely on some personal relationship, especially for friends or acquaintance. Usually will put down our precaution, and therefore it's easily for people to fall into the traps.
What sorts of laws are on the books in Taiwan against human trafficking? It seems that at least some of the perpetrators, in addition to the victims, are Taiwanese. If they were to be sent home to face justice here in Taiwan, what punishments could these traffickers face?
We have Human Trafficking Prevention Act in Taiwan. So you can see that Taiwan is even ranked as the first grade for battling the human trafficking in the U.S. TIP report every year. And also in the Article 34 of Human Trafficking Prevention Act.
What are organizations like Amnesty International doing to help make sure that victims are safe and are able to get home safely?
We do notice that the human trafficking issues is a very serious crime which happened in the area. So it's not only happening in Taiwan, but also in many ASEAN countries such as Cambodia, and others. So it's a long-standing problem in this region. So we will keep monitor and also call on the Taiwanese government, the Cambodia government, or even the ASEAN countries to work together to combat human trafficking issues in this region.
New daily COVID cases in Taiwan are expected to start picking up again starting next week. That's according to the country's Pandemic Response Center, which says the Omicron BA4 and BA5 subvariants are starting to circulate in the country, particularly in the north. This comes as a local pilots union is calling on the government to scrap quarantine restrictions for flight crews ahead of an expected uptick in international travel. As Canning reports, the country's pilots and cabin staff still face some of the world's tightest regulations.
Another meal alone. When flight crew from Taiwan arrive in a foreign country, they are immediately taken into quarantine and locked in a room with a single-use key until it is time for them to leave for their return flight. Outside of their hotels, they often see people living normal lives, with no one wearing a mask.
机组人也是人，我们也有我们的人权跟我们移动的自由。一次性房卡，还有只能在房间里头用餐这样的一个情况，其实已经构成了拘禁这样的一个事实。
Taiwan's pilots have been living under these conditions for 2 years. The only other country in the world with such strict regulations for flight crew is China. The pilots' union argues that the risk of getting COVID-19 is higher in Taiwan than in most other countries, and is calling for the government to completely end overseas quarantine requirements. But authorities say that it is unlikely to happen anytime soon.
针对这个机组员在这2个月之间的染疫的情形做一个评估，那这评估之后才有办法，就是针对这个后续他们在站外要不要放宽的部分来做一个就是在专家会议里面进行，看要怎么一个松绑。
With more flights starting to fly in and out of Taiwan as the country's borders slowly open, flight crews will have to navigate an increasing workload, all while remaining isolated from a quick return to normal life. Patrick Chen and Ken Ning for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwanese chipmaker MediaTek says it has made the world's first successful satellite call using a cell phone. It's a breakthrough that could bring high-speed broadband coverage to isolated areas. The company says the achievement was a result of cooperation with Taiwan's Industrial Technology Research Institute and the Roda and Schwartz Low Earth Orbit Simulator. The simulator is a company that tests small satellites. MediaTek says future 5G non-terrestrial networks resulting from the breakthrough will bring broadband coverage to parts of the planet that land-based infrastructure can't reach. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally today, we leave you with images from 2 Argentine paddleboarders in the coastal town of Monte Hermoso. The pair were lucky enough to get up close and personal with some whales as they swam by. I'm Erika Liu. Take care and see you next time.